Alright guys, Red here. Welcome to How to Star Citizen, where we guide new recruits along the hazardous stretches of the Star Citizen universe. Today we're going to look at optimization. Before we do that, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to my members, Nils Gerdes, Spacecraft, Thomas in London, and Bad Randolph. Welcome aboard, dude. If you're looking at getting a Star Citizen, please use one of the codes on screen now. If you're looking to become a member, you'll find all the links and buttons in the usual places. Okay, on with the show. So, a lot of players are going to get into the game, and the first thing PC players tend to do is optimize the game so it runs better on their system. Unfortunately, unlike the vast majority of released games, you will find that Star Citizen is mostly unoptimized and in most places CPU bound. This has exceptions, but any built up area such as major cities and even inside your own cockpit, you will sometimes find you're not using your entire GPU. To be honest, there's not actually much we as players can do about that, but we can try to make sure we've done everything we can to push the envelope that's available to us. So obviously this part won't apply to everyone, but if you're currently or might be in the near future upgrading your PC to run Star Citizen in particular, here's what you need to know. First up, you're going to want to get the fastest CPU you can afford. Currently the best price to performance chip for gaming is the 7800 X3D from AMD. If that's still a bit too steep, then something like the Ryzen 5 7600X will do nicely. Pair that with any higher end 30 series GPU, then we've got the RAM. Star Citizen will run on 16GB of RAM no problem, but if you give it free rein, it eats up closer to 20. Now this doesn't mean you'll necessarily get better FPS if you get 32GB. In fact, it seems to be about the same, but because your system is maxing out the RAM and having to address the page file, you will find that the game feels a lot smoother with 32GB installed. For RAM speed, this can be pretty important as well. The faster the better. If you take the time to get that activated in the BIOS, or you're the type of person with the patience to tune it, you can actually see pretty decent gains. Be aware, however, tuning RAM can make your system unstable and can be a pretty lengthy and tedious process. If you're on Intel, you can currently disable E-cores in the BIOS and that will help stabilize your game, and it also helps a little to disable hyper-threading if you're really trying to squeeze out every last drop available just for Star Citizen's sake. So in Windows, you're going to want to turn game mode on. You're going to want game bar off. You're going to want game capture off. If you have a Nvidia card, then turning on hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is a good idea. For the areas that you find you're actually GPU bound, such as in space or the moons, you can try image scaling on both AMD and Nvidia. This is where you essentially set your in-game resolution to one of these on screen, then use this to scale it back up. It doesn't look as good as native, but it saves a ton of performance. Keep in mind, however, DLSS and FSR is implemented in the game. We'll get to that in the game settings. There is also the ability to turn core isolation off, or VBS. This should be off by default on Windows 10, but it is enabled on 11. This does give you tangible performance boost in the game, but it's entirely up to you if you want to disable it because there is a security risk in doing so. Most in-game settings will have some impact, so these are worth checking out. We have a DLSS implementation, which is okay if you prefer that over the driver software upscaling. Quality will give you an extra 20%, but balanced and performance don't do much extra. Set the quality setting to medium or high instead of very high, not much point in going lower. Scattered objects, put that to high. Tessellation distance, high. Volumetric clouds has a massive impact, so turn completely off for maximum FPS. Medium if you can afford it. The difference between off and medium is about 5% of your total GPU load, and between medium and high is another 10, so you could save 15% by completely disabling them. FPS will increase with FOV as well, so keep that as low as you feel comfortable with. VSync should be off if you can get away with it on your display, and everything else is pretty much preference, and you can do whatever you like. There's also a program called lossless scaling that will force frame generation, making for a much smoother experience. You will find this on Steam, I'll leave a link below. And that should be you all set. I want to take a minute here to give a big shout out to the channel £10.42, because without that channel, this video would not have been possible. And if you really want to drill down into any of the details on anything you've seen on this video, that is the place to go. He is our resident Star Citizen performance guru. I'll leave a link to his channel below, you will learn so much. Hopefully I'll see you in the next episode where we'll take our first steps in the verse. We'll be covering movement, interaction, food, equipping gear, and on-foot navigation. Obviously not stupid stuff like how to move forward and back. I will try and find stuff that's, kind of not obvious. Until then, stay safe. 07 guys.